Hi, Blastpop here. Today I'm taking a look at Crimea, The Dawn of Modern Warfare by Game Designers Workshop, otherwise known as GDW, published in 1975 by Frank Chadwick. This game covers the Crimean War and covers it in a rather unique way. It doesn't show the entire area of the Crimean Peninsula, but various segments of the area on individual maps in those areas that were critical during the campaign. The primary one being Sevastopol, but there are several others as well. That way it allows the game to focus on a more tactical combat. The system kind of is reminiscent, because it was published around the same time as the original Terrible Swift Sword. While no way is it similar to Terrible Swift Sword, it does seem to have the tactical elements of fire combat and melee, and but you know, at a few levels above the tactics of Terrible Swift Sword. So it does have some of that tactical battlefield going on. This was published in 1975. The graphics are not up to modern day standards, but it does harkens back to a day where war games were simpler and a lot was done graphically with not a lot of components or you know, modern graphic design. I will say, despite its age, I think it holds up pretty well, and it's certainly an acceptable game to play and won't hurt your eyes looking at it like some other games of the era. Included is a rules booklet, fairly dense, not illustrated to speak of, other than the cover. It's pretty dense, and it runs about 16 pages. And you got an advanced game and a basic game, plus you got an area for optional rules. And the basic game is more focused on like the land combat. The advanced game adds all the elements that truly make the game a campaign as opposed to a basic game. So you got basically an advanced game, a basic game, and optional rules, sort of, which was done a lot during this era to help speed people along to learn a game. You have an action segment, you have a strategic movement, and you have combat. Not difficult rules, although there is a fair bit of errata. As a matter of fact, it gets its own little flyer here with the errata from September of 1975. And some of it probably could have been avoided if there was some greater playtesting. But this game is fairly unique and isn't a bad game. I haven't played it in a few decades, so my memories of it are somewhat blurred by time. But nonetheless, it is. I can't think of any game on the subject at this level that covers the campaigns and the battles. Also included are cardstock charts and tables. You got combat, you got forced passage, you got clear line of communication CRT, a naval CRT. You get two of those, one for each player. You got a basic games battle games introduction, so you also have several battles that you can play. You can play the Battle of the Alma, the Battle of Baklava, the Battle of Inkerman, the Battle of Evapatoria, Tukurnia, and Malakoff, storming the Malakoff, and finally the Valley of Death, which is like a mini game about the charge of the Light Brigade. Additionally, you have a biography. You have a terrain effects chart, which details the terrain on the map. And then, oddly and separately from the rules book, is a unit identification chart, and goes through the types of units, what the values mean on the counters, as well as the abbreviations for the various nationalities if you want to know a little bit more which unit you're actually seeing on your map. You have a composition chart here for the Russians and an inset map for in and around Sevastopol. It is in an area to allow you to store units off board and not have such large stacks as well. And its use, I believe, if I remember correctly, is optional. Lines of communication, which I alluded to before, if you're moving from one place to another on the map, the grayed areas are maps, and LOC is line of communications. And if, say, for instance, you're moving from Kerch to Theodosia, you have to go through a line of communication. You have to roll on the table because, you know, there might be elements of the enemy forces that are in your way. And additionally, there's a little map here showing where all the various inset maps are located, so you get a sense of where your battles are occurring, and presumably set to the scale of the area that the battle map represents as well, in terms of the total size of the Kerch Peninsula. And then you have the Allied unit composition chart, which is similar to the Russian one. You have a Russian initial campaign order of battle, which is what sets up on the board. Same with the Allied order of battle, though I do believe they have the opportunity to choose where they're landing and invading. So that's a little more freeform, because basically the Allies get to determine the pace and character of how the battle starts and develops. And on the back you have an Allied initial order of battle for the basic game. You have basic game and battle game orders of battle here to set up. Same here with the Allied, much the same formatting. Additionally, you have the Russian order of battle for the basic game on a fold-out sheet. Again, cardstock, and then a campaign, and then the numbers here represent the turn numbers that these units appear. And the Allies get much the same as well, with another fold-out card. A lot of items included in this package. I bought it directly from Game Designer's Workshop about 1975-1976, and I paid a princely sum of about $9 for it. The counters, which I put in an old SPI tray, you have your Russians, you have your unit markers, you have your Turkish here, you have the French, you have the British, and I'm not really sure what these ones were off the top of my head. In terms of thickness, they are the brown core. This is a headquarter unit, and they are double-sided, actually. Example, the other side of a British unit. It was almost mandatory to clip the counters, because here's a sample of a blank counter. When you pull them out, unless you're using a knife or a scissors, you get a lot of dog ears. So it's mandatory, if you're going to play, to clip the counters, unless you want a real mess on the game board. Now we have the map. It's divided into smaller sections, as you can see here. And up here you have your turn record track. Here you have Sevastopol, and the area leading to it. Smaller maps for Evapatoria, Simferopol, the Dosha, and Kirch. It's on a nice heavy map stock. Very nicely done. Again, considering the age of 1975, I think this is an excellent game. It does have rules problems. You'll have to spend some effort to make sure you understand the proper rules and incorporating the errata. But I think it's well worth it. And I was turned on to this game back in 1975, 1976, when there was an article and review in Fired Movement magazine some years ago. It really led me to track this one down, and I'm happy I got it. It's one of those games that I won't part with. It's kind of hard to find, but this is a retrospective to give you a sense of the kind of work GDW was doing early on in its publishing history. Please comment, like, and subscribe. This is Blastpop. Bye.